So when you're doing your own sketch to stretch, there's a couple things you want to keep in mind. All right. The first thing is before you even start, remember there's no right way to sketch to stretch. There's no right answers or wrong answers. Okay. This is not the right way to draw what school means. It's not wrong though either, right? Just because maybe if you first looked at this on your own and you didn't know what it was about, you might be like, I don't know what that's supposed to show. It's like a, shrinking man, growing man, right? Like that's fine. That doesn't make it right or wrong. What makes it right is when there's an explanation that goes with it and makes sense. So for me, right, like school means all these different subjects, math, science, writing, computers, right, like going into my brain, and then I'm learning, growing bigger from it, right? That's why these heads are growing. I'm moving forward, I'm growing smarter and climbing towards my goals, right? That's what school means to me. So the minute I have that explanation, now it's right, right? Not because it's the same way you would explain it or the same way everyone else would explain it. It's right because it makes sense and it explains my thinking about what this thing means to me. Okay. Now, if I said, school means to me sitting in a pool, and I don't explain it anymore. Now that's kind of wrong just because I don't understand how that connects to school. If you're like sitting in a pool because I'm on the swim team and I swim every day, boom, suddenly that's school to you. All right. So don't get caught up in right or wrong. You shouldn't really have the same picture as other people. It shouldn't look the same. And again, just by looking at it, they don't need to know what it is, right? It's the explanation that goes with it that helps people understand your thoughts and helps you expand how you look at and think about these things that we're asking you to think about. The other thing, right, is that this is a sketch. So it's not supposed to look really nice and fancy. This isn't a piece of art that you're going to sell for $1 million, at least not most of you, right? There's a reason it's called sketch to stretch and not spend days and hours making a masterpiece to stretch, right? The sketching helps you come up with different ways of thinking. It helps you make symbols and it helps you move fast and really allow your mind to go free, right? If you were caught trying to draw something really accurately, you're not going to really push your thinking. You're only going to draw what you can draw, right? Like this is not a great drawing of a head, but you can get the picture, and once I explain it, you get it. This might look like an ant, but when I explain that's a guy climbing a mountain, you're like, okay, fine. These are arrows. I didn't even color them in very well, right? Like this picture is not fantastic. It's okay. It's a sketch. The whole point is just to show some symbols, have them there, so that when you explain them, people are like, oh, okay, I get what you're saying. That's the power of symbols. Symbols shouldn't be really hard to draw. They should actually be pretty simple and clean and all that. So remember that. Don't worry about making it look good. Don't spend time trying to make it look good. Spend your time trying to think of how you can show the different things you want to show. And then the final thing is that we can find new meanings sometimes that we didn't even plan while we're explaining. So what I mean by that is when I drew this, and maybe I was thinking about certain things. But while I'm explaining, I might be, oh, and then there's this other thing that's showing up in this picture that reminds me of school that you might not have even meant to do at the beginning. But that's really cool. That actually is not wrong. That doesn't mean we're making it up. It's actually just drawing more connections. So in this case, I just chose random colors to have these arrows be different colors just because I felt like it. But when I look back at it, I'm like, well, hey, these green arrows kind of look like trees growing, right? And like, if we're talking about growth and getting better and lasting a long time, like trees grow straight and last a long time. So that's also kind of what learning means to me. It's like the long lasting stuff is what school's about, right? Like learning random, silly things that I forget. Like that's not important to me. This blue arrows, that kind of makes me think of a river flowing, right? And so I'm making progress, steady progress forward, just like a river kind of runs forward without stopping, right? I didn't mean to do that. I just randomly chose colors so that they'd all be different colors. But once I look at it and I get that meaning, it helps me think more deeply about what this means to me, and it can really expand my thinking. So that's another big piece of remembering that finding new meaning in it is not making things up. It doesn't mean like you don't get yelled at like, oh, you didn't mean to do that, you're making that up. No, if you find more meaning and you can find meaning out of the colors you chose, even though you didn't do it on purpose, even better. It's just making a stronger sketch to stretch.